tell you something. I'm afraid of heights. I'd love to go parachute jumping and know that I was absolutely safe. But you know, there's downsides to it. So I've looked into some of the downsides, and I've written a novel about it. And my current adventure is, of course, I'm trying to write another novel, and I'm trying to write a screenplay for 418 so that we can all see it on a big screen. Because immersive internet, you just got to know there's got to be lots of photos and lots of special effects that you can do. You know, we could go driving down the highway, the wrong side of the highway at night. That'd be fun. Of course, we're on the internet, so we're not really going to die. And I'd love to be able to do some of that. Yes, sir.
No, I'm just sitting here listening to you. We've got a great guest with us today. He joins us live. I am a Teapot. That is the latest from our good friend Edgar Scott. You can get more information, edgarscottwrites.com. That's edgarscottwrites.com. So, Edgar, tell me a little bit about the writing process for this incredible piece of work here.
So, you know, that's a personal journey. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to tell you. It just means I'm going to warn you. It's a personal journey. I am not 18 years old. I have lived a lot of my life. I have spent 25 years as an IT professional. And I started out when the IT world was, my first IT job would have been with a guy who had an ISDN dial-up service. And, you know, there were 4 of us selling internet to people. I've worked for web hosting companies, medical records companies, cryptocurrency exchange. I don't work for any of those companies anymore, health record companies. I don't work for any of them anymore. What I have seen is that the world of the internet is sort of chasing itself down to, you know, a race to the bottom. We're trying to do these things cheaper, and why not? You know, one of my first jobs was selling high-end computers to the post-production industry. Those computers cost $1 million a piece. You don't need that to make a movie. And so I've watched all of this heading towards sort of a bottom, and also the way that people work. And I thought, you know what? If we bring in the immersive internet, what are we going to do? Well, if I was on the immersive internet and I could go skydiving, and if I could be as drunk as I want every night, or stoned, or whatever it might be, and I could just turn it off in the morning, because we're just stimulating those parts of your mind, and you go back to work and be just fine. And if we could make it so that I didn't even know what I was doing at work, you know, my body just did the tasks. I didn't have to know what they were. I didn't have to see that I'd put my hands into, you know, a big grease drain or something like that. I'd be great about that. I'd be happy. And I'd never want to come offline. And if you don't come offline, how do you get paid? Well, you get paid online. And so what I saw is that, hey, wait a second, we would have a bunch of people who never come offline. We can program them to work. And so what you would actually do is you would start taking away jobs of waitresses, garbage collectors,
Yep.
park attendants. You would take all those jobs away and turn them into jobs that people who are paid in virtual money online. So they're virtually unpaid. And that would just cause the economy to buckle and crack and crash. And what you would really see is you would start to see programmable humans would start to take the place of machineries on production lines. So
Okay.
It's cheaper to just have a bunch of people with a bunch of wrenches that you can just tell them, you know, don't do it this way, do it that way, as opposed to buying a machine that you have to program. And the machine can break, and it's expensive to fix. And when a person breaks, we just replace them. So I saw this horrible dystopia setting out in front of me, and I went, oh no. Now my personal journey is this. I watched all of this happen, and one of the things that I'd been doing for a long time, and I'm not doing it, for all the people who can see me, I'm not dyeing my hair anymore. For the last 10 years, I've been dyeing my hair in the IT world. Why is that? Because the IT world wants younger and younger people. And I kept getting older and older. And it didn't matter that I had all this experience. People were just going, well, you're old. And so I got a little tired of listening to my boss telling me this. And I said, you know what? I don't need you anymore. And I walked away. And I decided to write this novel because ultimately you get to choose what you do in life. And if you don't choose, then you're choosing not to choose. So I chose to write this novel because I couldn't not do it anymore. I just couldn't be part of that. And I saw this dystopia opening up and I went, okay, now, how realistic is that? Well, we have our Google glasses, we have our immersive headwear, we have our technology that sits on our wrists. We also have companies that are pioneering work into implants into the back of your head to allow you to interact with AI. That scares me. I mean, it could be very useful. Look, technology is great. A hip replacement's a wonderful thing if you've got a bad hip. The kind of things that we can do with medicine is great. But it gets a little scary in some places.
Yes.
And so I wanted to write this book as, look, I'm not telling you whether it's good or bad. I'm just going to tell you that this is what you could do. And if you did do that, how would you deal with it if you were in it? And that's the real story. My story is about a man who finds himself in the immersive internet, realizes that nothing is real, and he starts to walk his way trying to get out of the immersive internet so that he can actually have something real and of value in his life. And it's about his boss, who may well effectively own him, who rents out his services and collects the money for it. And he's in danger of being forced into this unpaid working class. And he starts to realize that, you know what, it's coming for me if I don't do something. And the two of them have to work together. So it is ultimately a story of their journey to freedom. And I think that's very important with a lot of the technology that we have. The only ask I have of people is, when you look at this technology, ask what you're giving up for what you're getting. And if you decide that you want to be part of the immersive internet yourself, okay. Because there were people in my novel who voluntarily chose to become autonomous workers and enjoy the immersive internet all the time. And that's fine.
That's fantastic.
That's the story and my background. I was a computer guy for so long, and I was a computer guy working with large sets of data. So I was the guy working in the back room, and I wasn't allowed to be online. I couldn't really have a social media platform. I couldn't say, some of the jobs I couldn't actually say what I was doing while I had those jobs. Couldn't tell anybody.
Wow.
Because it's dangerous. And I just thought, you know what, I kind of want to live a different life. So for me, it's also a story towards my own personal freedom. I got to say this, and my hope is that if you read it, you'll go, yeah, that's interesting, because it's a great book. I don't talk about politics. It's in the future, so politics doesn't apply. I don't tell you what to believe. We're online, so religion is out of bounds because, my goodness, I don't know how I would do that. I mean, it's not even in the scope of the book. So it's apolitical, areligious. It just talks about what would be if we substituted labor for machinery, because we could program people, and that's a little frightening.
Yes.
So yeah, that's my thing. That's my thing.
So, what's been the reception to this book so far? What's been some reviews and any feedback you've gotten on the book so far?
So, I'll tell you, my biggest problem is actually getting people to read it. Now
Okay.
that sounds like every author's problem, but I'll explain it to you. There's a lot of people that are waiting for the movie. They'd love to see it. They're waiting for with the cliff notes or what have you. and I wrote a piece of literature. And so literature is not real popular. Modern literature is anything after 1950. That's the technical definition of it.
Okay.
And 1950 was a long time ago. So I get compared to books that were written in 1932 or 1948. So I'm often compared to books like 1984 or Brave New World. Brave New World's written in 1932. But the comments I've got are, and the ones that I really cherish are from other authors who've read it, because look, it takes a lot of people to get a book like this out, and I asked a lot of people to edit and beta read and things like that. And profound is my favorite comment. You've written something profound. Great. That's, you know what? I don't care now if anybody reads it because I wrote something profound. Okay, I should immediately
awesome.
walk that back, because of course I care if you read it. Of course I'd love you to buy it. Of course I'd love to see it in a movie. But, that's great. It's profound. It doesn't change your life, but it makes you think twice before you log on and, start allowing the apps to tell you what to think.
Yeah.
I have a character called a concierge in my book. That's the interface for my online character, who is 418. He also has a name he calls himself, George. And George has to talk to the world through the concierge. Well, the concierge is effectively a search engine. And so the concierge tells him things and suggests things that the concierge thinks he'll like. So he's online and he has all this wonderful restaurants that he could go to, and he could dine sumptuously and he'd taste everything. And where does he end up going? Fast food restaurants. Because that's all he knows. And there's no one there to tell him otherwise, and the concierge isn't going to suggest it. Because if you look up, food near me, guess what you're going to get? So what we've actually found is the internet is actually sort of contracting our choices sometimes, unless we know to ask the right question, which is interesting food near me, or different food near me, or exotic food near me, or something very different. So I think it's a very accurate novel for today. And so people come back to me and say, yeah, I didn't think of that. Oh my goodness, I see, my employer acts like that to me. It's like, well, really? Because, in my book, the characters are dehumanized. So, I actually, 418 is stripped of his gender pronoun for most of the book until he gets it back. And he gets it back only because he recognizes himself as a human being. And so, I hear people say things like that. I didn't see that coming, or, oh my goodness, that would be, if you were online, one of the most fun things that I don't want to give away too much, but one of the most fun things that I think you would have is I don't know if I'm of an older generation. I did online dating. Okay. There were websites. We have now apps for that. I've found a wife. I'm happy. And we did online dating, and you couldn't really tell who was who until you actually met them. So my character actually has a wife who he's never met.
Wow.
And so he goes on a quest to find his wife, who, of course, his manager knows who his wife is. But his wife can't possibly understand what's happened, because was born into this, and to tell her what has happened would just blow her brains out. So he has to demonstrate this to poor 418, who then realizes, oh my goodness, you're right. I can't meet my wife again. It's never going to happen. She is less than a human. And that's when actually he gets his gender, his pronouns back, because he calls her less than human, and he realizes that he is not. So yeah, it's a very subtle thing that if you're reading it, I'll just start slipping in, instead of it, he becomes him again. There's no fanfare. I don't really care that much to, it's just, hey man, you're a human being again. Welcome. So, I have a lot of fun. It's an interesting book. You know, um, at the end of it, you should realize that um, anything that you actually want, no matter what your situation might be, you can have. And no matter how hard it might seem, the recipe is always the same. First, you have to decide what it is that you want, and I make my characters do that. Second thing is you must take some sort of action. You must make a plan. You must take action. Third thing is you have to, well, you have to do it. Fourth thing is evaluate. Did you get what you thought you were going to get? And if you're not getting it, go change it. They have to do that. Nobody's going to come and say, "Oh, you poor you. Let's lift you out." No, 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 no. They have to do it for themselves, as we all must in this world to better ourselves. So I give you that sort of generic success formula that you might hear from the motivational speakers, but I don't outline it too heavily because this is not a motivational book. If you want one of those, there's lots of those. This is a piece of fiction. This is fun. And you want to be cheering for him at the end. So, it's his story to freedom. It's his story to rehumanization. And he's happy at the end. So it's a dystopia. Lots of horrible, dark, black images. And I love them too, because, they're so much fun. And at the end of it, you go, yeah, but I can do it too. And no matter what it is, because, hey, man, haven't we all had a job that sucks? I mean, my last IT job, I quit because the guy was telling me I was too old and I was 48. And it's like, you're kidding me.
Yes.
Absolutely no. I'm not taking that. So that was the book is my exclamation point on that. I'll leave his name behind because it doesn't matter. There would have been somebody else. There's always somebody else,
Yeah.
And I'm so much better off. I should probably send him a thank you note.
That's awesome.
Good.
We have got
Glad you like
a tremendous guest with us today. He joins us live here on our broadcast. So this book, yes, let's talk about the cover to the book.
cover. Well, I don't know how much you can see. So cover.
Look at that. Fantastic.
Fantastic. You know who that photo is? Absolutely no one.
That's great.
Doesn't exist. So the cover, I was one of my beta readers.
Absolutely
I gave it
no
to
one.
a friend of mine who's a commercial artist. Look, I'm an IT guy. I know a lot of IT guys. Some of them are artists. And he read it and he went, "Man, this is great." And he sent me back something at 2 a.m. It scared the daylights out of me because my phone exploded because he's a known person. And it's like, what's going on? And I saw this photo. Now, when he sent me the original photo, he only sent me the guy in the jumpsuit. So he sent me the bald guy in the orange-red jumpsuit. And I went, what is going on? It's 2 a.m. Why are you sending me this inmate? And that was his interpretation of who 418 is. And the question that I have when I run into people who don't know anything about the novel is, which side is reality and which side is the internet? Because lots of people want to tell me that the guy in the nice tuxedo jacket is kind of looks like it might be a Hollywood actor or something like that. They tell me that that's the real life, and it's like, oh no, no, it's the guy in the red jumpsuit who's picking up the garbage. That's life. But he gets to, he can imagine himself any way that he wants. But the thing is that when you live like that, you become very insular. So one of the things that really isn't drawn out, but it's very true. I mean, I get this question, how many characters do you have? Well, I have very few characters in the book because you live online like that, and I know this as an IT guy, you don't get to know too many people. In fact, your list of friends starts to shrink because it's not exactly like you can go out and say what you do.
Well, that too.
My character 418 lives alone, and he doesn't know anybody. And now he's trying to figure out how to get out of this internet that he's grown up into, and it's just there's all he can do is reach out to the man who effectively owns him, and the man who effectively owns him is just annoyed that he couldn't just write him off. and collect the cash and move on. But he can't, because the insurance company has said no. So he's working with them. And it's such a terrible conundrum. We live this way. I mean, haven't we all had a little ding in our car and it's like, yeah, you know what? That's my car and it doesn't look like new. And I'd like you to make it look like new, but the insurance company says it's fixed. It's like, no, I want it to look like new. You know, I know where that impact was. So, you know, we all have this happen to ourselves. So I drew upon that and I pulled that up and I went, okay, you know, we end up in those positions where, you know, we're never really happy and you know, we're trying, you know, everybody's just trying to, you know, make ends meet. And boy, in a world like that, where you change the production function so that we're driving the economy based on labor and not capital and technology. And, you know, I have my background is as an economist. That's my professional training. If you did that, what you've actually done is you've created what's called a perfect labor market. And that sounds wonderful. But what that means is that nobody's getting paid more than they need. And if that happens, that means that everybody's making what's called a subsistence wage. And if they don't, they have to drop out of the market. And if you're not making a subsistence wage, well, so all of these people, including his owner, are just scraping by. And that's because we're not innovating in this book. We stopped when we found programmable labor. It's a problem. Well, the only way that you can get out of that is to make a conscious choice. So that has to happen.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun book. I really think that, you know, I look forward to, you know, I love hearing what people think of it. And I've loved some of the Instagram people some of the reviewers have done this where they've taken the front cover and they've put their own face as 418.
That's great.
So
That's
half
awesome.
of their face has like a cybernetic eye, and the other half is dressed up in a suit or an evening dress or whatever. If it's a woman reviewer, she'll do an evening dress, and that's just awesome. I love that because I'm just saying that, you know, sometimes we forget what is absolutely important. So I just wanted to write a little note to get us back there. That's all.
That's awesome.
A reminder. I'm not telling you
little
what's
reminder.
right. I couldn't possibly tell you what's right.
Well, you have got such a cool project here. You mentioned something about possibly making this into a movie or a TV show or something. Have you had any discussions with anybody?
I certainly have. I have a dear friend who turns out to have been. Now, you gotta understand. I met this man through a car show.
That's awesome.
And he turns out to have been a TV producer in his career. And I gave him the book, and he went, "Oh yeah. But that's a movie." and so okay, so he told me, "Go write the screenplay," and which is fantastic because writing the screenplay, I can do things that I couldn't do in the novel. In the novel, I have to explain the world. In the screenplay, I show it to you. So, you know, as an example, in the screenplay, I would put 418's wife being the receptionist in the hospital clinic where 418 is being rehabilitated.
Yes,
they're on the side of the door. And I can't explain that in a novel because there would be words in the way. So I can do that in a screenplay where you will see it as the audience, and even, you know, the manager doesn't care, and it just walks right by. And they never meet each other there. And so I've got this. I started writing the screenplay. I'm about 60% of the way through adapting the novel. And the reason I wanted to tell you a little bit about that is it's an adaptation. And I'm now understanding why so many novels that become movies are so horribly long is because the writer doesn't want to let go of any of these scenes. And it's like, no. It's a screenplay. It's a different animal. So I want it to be full of action and exciting, you're going to lose a few storylines. This is a very complex story. If you want to get all the storylines that I put into it, the glass ceiling that I threw into it, the change of the pronoun, because, being able to call yourself whatever you are, for me to call myself he and him is great. That's not a civil right. That's a human right. And that's going to be lost in the screenplay, but it can be in the novel, and you can read it there. And I don't have to get that across to you. So it can be more fun, the screenplay. The novel's a little more academic.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, as we wrap up here with our guest today here on our big broadcast, before we let you go, how do we get in touch with you online, buy the book, get all your information and everything, my friend?
Okay. EdgarScottWrites.com is my website. I'm Edgar Scott Writes on Instagram. I happen to be _Writes on Twitter because it was one character too long.
That's one thing about social media that if you have one character off or whatever, you're just done, Edgar. You're just done.
I've got the Facebook page. Instagram I'm on frequently, and I update because we're in a very visual society now. Let's show you a picture, and I love that. I am on Twitter at eScottWrites. EdgarScottWrites.com is my domain, and you can send me an email through it, and I will get it. Now, if you want to buy the book, all of the online bookstores that you might think of, Google Play, Apple, Amazon, they've got it. Kobo, they've got it. Awesome. I got it into you can order it through bookstores, and they will send you a print copy, or Amazon too. It takes a little while because I'm independent. It's got to be printed. It's got to be sent to you. Hang on. Here's the nice thing. I'm independent. You're not paying a publisher. So it's a little cheaper because normally this kind of book would be $19.99. It's $12.99.
Yes.
So you're going to save a couple of bucks. Just chill out. It's coming.
Well, that is fantastic. We have got a tremendous guest this week here on the Quad Pod, the best-selling science fiction author Edgar Scott of the 418 I Am a Teapot novel, and check out EdgarScottWrites.com. Edgar Scott, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I really appreciated this.
No problem.
Keep up the good fight. Keep up the good work.
We will. And I definitely will be in touch because I would love to have you back on and chat with some of my other hosts that I've got access to, and just would love to have you back on the program. Thanks for doing this, brother.
I can't wait. I'm so close to finishing another one, and I'm just going to start the screenplay right away.
Well, thank you, Edgar. Have yourself a wonderful day, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. There he goes. That is EdgarScottWrites.com. Here on the Quad Pod, we're going to take a time out. Be back with more here on the other side